Welcome back to Wizard Supercoach. Hope you're all staying cool. Don't know what the weather is where you are, but it's stinking hot here today, about 40 degrees. So, good time to stay inside and make a Supercoach video. Something a little bit different today, as you can see. Well, it's another fixture chart, so that's the same, but this time it's basically the points that teams give up by position. So, starting with the key forwards here. You see, for example, like Brisbane here, minus 10.91. So these are fantasy scores, but they're still relevant because, you know, there's a correlation between fantasy and Supercoach scoring. I think it gives you at least a bit of a base. But unfortunately, DFS Australia only does the fantasy scores on this one. So I've overlaid their data onto the fixture. If you're not using DFS Australia, I think you're putting yourself behind the pack. So definitely check that out. There's heaps of good stuff there. Now, yeah, teams like Brisbane, GWS, and St Kilda, you don't want your key forwards to be playing against them, basically, because they give up the least points. So St Kilda minus 10, that's 10 points below a player's average. Across the last 10 games of last year. So this is all off of the last 10 games of last year. So you want to be playing the teams in green, obviously, with the three dark green teams giving up the most points. A bit of a shock, actually, that North Melbourne weren't one of those three. But anyway, what I'm looking for, again, is good runs in the fixture, particularly good starting runs, because I don't think we can plan too much right now for post-buy and stuff, but Adelaide has a really good first half of the year here, like pre-buy. So round 1 to 13, it looks pretty good. So, because this is key forwards though, the only problem is Adelaide doesn't have really any relevant key forwards, I would say. Phil Thorpe, I guess some people are saying he's due for the breakout, and supposedly he's tearing up the track, but so is every player. And then Chris Burgess, who's come across from Gold Coast, although it looks more likely he may play down back. If he gets named round 1 though, because he's rookie price, I think you'd have to back him in, particularly with the 40 trades now, which I'll get to later. Hawthorn, they've also got a pretty good run here, as you can see from the start. Round 1 to 8, or even 10 really. Then it gets a bit hairy from there, but again, they don't really have anyone Supercoach relevant. So Lewis and Chol, I guess I've seen some people, I don't know why, but suggesting that Lewis could go up to about, 500, 550k mark, which is in my mind just ridiculous. I don't think it's going to happen, but yeah, Chol, he's a lot cheaper, so I wouldn't pick him myself, and I wouldn't advise doing it, but yeah, it's probably more relevant for him. Port, they've got a good run too, so round 1 to 6. I've seen a few people suggest Mitch Georgiadis. Again, I wouldn't be picking him, but who knows, honestly. I could very well have egg on my face come mid-season for not picking him. But I don't really like picking key forwards. But yeah, if he jumped out the blocks, particularly with these two to begin with, the two dark green teams, as long as he made enough in those first 6 rounds, he could just coast a little bit from there and hopefully either cash him in or get him to the buy. St Kilda, they got a similar run, so actually it's quite a good run from round 1 to 8. And again, this is one of those teams without the extra buy, so that's pretty good. But really, the only one I can think of here that's even close to being relevant is Jack Hayes. So I'd be tempted to take a punt on him, actually. I've spoke about him in a previous video. Now, I know I just said I don't like key forwards, but he also pinch hits in the ruck, and he showed that he could score in his first season before getting injured. So he really doesn't have to average much to make 150k or whatever you want. Probably doesn't even have to be 150k anymore, given that there's the extra trades. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on, especially with that start to the season. Sydney, they've got a pretty decent start there. A bit like Port. If you can get the player, like if he has a good run over those first 6 games, he can hopefully he's made enough and can coast from there a bit. The only one I could see being relevant really is McLean, and that's even a stretch. He went, I think, 103 average in the last 5 or 6 games as soon as Buddy went out the team. So he can do it. I just don't think he could sustain that for an entire season. And you'd have to have absolute balls of steel to pick him. I don't think I'm going to do it, but hats off to anyone that does, because I can definitely see the merit in picking him, as odd as it is. And the whole reason for this is that the forward line is just bare. I did these to try and, I don't know, make some sense of the forward line and try and make it easier to pick something decent. But yeah, as you can see, not getting a hell of a lot out of it, unfortunately. I don't know if you guys can see something I can't, but it just seems that the good runs here apply to teams that don't have the Supercoach relevant players too much. And then it's worth saying as well that take these with a grain of salt, because it was only across the last 10 rounds, and usually teams, when they have a weakness like the Bulldogs here and Richmond in particular, if they're giving up heavy points to key forwards, you would think that that would be something they'd work on a lot over the off season. And also obviously some defences have changed personnel wise, so you now see Essendon have Mackay and North Melbourne's lost Mackay, so North Melbourne could very well turn into one of these dark green teams. As much as I don't rate Mackay, yeah, he's probably better than anyone that was coming in to replace him. So yeah, it's just an extra tool to use, I guess. You can't really base too much off of it, but if you've got a situation where you're trying to decide between maybe a couple of players, maybe this is something that you could use to get one over the line. I'm not sure. I found it interesting though. Got the general forwards as well here, so a little bit different this time. Like the teams are a little bit different, as you can see. So you still got West Coast as being a dark green team because they're disgusting, but Sydney was the interesting one here. So they give up the third most scores to general forwards, which is interesting. I'm sure though that will be something that they've worked on in the preseason again. So it's probably a case of them having so many attacking running halfbacks. But anyway, good to see Adelaide here being one of the hard to score against teams, but no bias. So for the sake of this one too, I've added the Bulldogs as a light green team, even though they are in the minus. It's not enough to really make it relevant, like it's 0.26. So to even it out, I've made them light green. And so none of this is my own stats. This is all of this info is just taken from DFS Australia, and I just lay it over the fixture. So if you have a problem, take it up with them. So the first one here is Geelong. They've got that first 5 is pretty good. Hopefully that helps out Sean Manor. He's pretty popular, one of the most picked. I think he'll be in every team regardless, but that's a good sign for us. Hopefully he can have a few good price rises there before we start to look to get rid of him. I can't see him being a keeper or anything. Gold Coast, their first half of the season is really, really good. So that's going to benefit, you would think, Sam Flanders. Although he just plays like an extra midfielder once the ball is bounced anyway, but, you know, it is what it is. So I think most people are going to have him anyway. I wouldn't be betting against the pack with him, which is something I've learnt from last year is you can't try and, you know, win with point of difference players and stuff in the first few weeks. I think it's really about you try and stay with the pack and then take the risks later. You can really cook yourself within 2 weeks like I did. Very stupid, but here we are. You can learn from my mistakes. Melbourne, they've got a really good first half of the year. So obviously that means Billings. He's going to be a very popular pick. So hopefully we can just get him through to the bye and then flip him, because I suspect that some midfielder is going to become DPP by then. You would at least hope so, because if not, it's going to be a pretty rough season. And the power here, round 1 to 11, I don't really see any obvious players that's going to benefit. Possibly McEntee or Sin, if they get a game, they might play on that half forward flank. Kenny doesn't mind playing kids, I guess, unless it's finals, but yeah, no obvious one there. That's, again, this is the problem. Like, we're seeing these good runs, but it's usually for teams that don't have Supercoach relevant players in those positions. And the last one is the Bulldogs. So with Bevo, it could be just about any player is going to sit there on the half forward flank. Could be any of the midfielders. Harms is a new one. He could start there. I'm not sure. With Bevo, it could be literally anyone. It could be Alex Keith for all we know. But yeah, they have got a pretty decent run from round 1 to 11. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really make the shitty forward line conundrum any easier, but as I said, if it can give you a tiny edge over picking maybe one player over the other, I guess it's useful. I'll be doing this for all the other positions as well, so whatever they've got on DFS, like I think there's inside midfielders, outside, and then there's like general defenders and the distributing defenders that take the kick in, stuff like that. So hopefully there'll be something interesting in there, but yeah, guess you'll have to watch the next few videos for that. So I'm still not going to do a team reveal for a little while. I just can't settle on anything. Like I said, nothing that I want to put my name to at this point, particularly in the midfield. I don't know. It's only early, so it doesn't matter. Now, the 40 trade thing, I'm not losing my mind over it, but it is disappointing. I feel like the game that we knew is slowly just turning into fantasy with a different scoring system. It definitely favours the casual. You can get away with a lot of stupid risks, I guess. And yeah, the people that actually put the time and research in, it's not really helping them. And I get that it's a business and all of that, but it's definitely disappointing. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of the 40 trades. Hopefully, in the future, I think Sports Deck did like the original Dream Team or whatever it is, something like that. I don't play it, but hopefully at some stage they or someone else make like a proper Supercoach and it goes back to the 30 trades or whatever, so we can play that. Like the hardcores can play that, and yeah, then you know everyone's happy, I guess. But yeah, super disappointing. But anyway, I don't want to go on a downer, so yeah, thanks for watching, and if these interest you at all, let me know in the comments, because it would be nice to know that the effort of making these is actually, you know, worth it and someone's getting something out of it. I am myself, but you know, I share the content for a reason. So yeah, thanks for watching, and hopefully you watch the next one. Cheers.